Now, because I have my entire console all ripped apart, I've taken this opportunity to go ahead and run the audio out wire, which is this one here. Done a quick tie around here to make sure that it doesn't slide anywhere. Follow the cord down, and I just fish lined it down beside the radio where it comes out down there. Brought it around there, and the rest of the module is in here beside my shift knob. Now, I don't really like PowerAXEL's method of how to wire it in. I don't like cutting wires. And one suggestion is that you clip the wire after the noise canceller, right here, and wire it directly to the OEM plug-in. My only concern with that is if you ever wanted to take your UNAVi out and you've just cut into the wires, and then you're going to have loose end wires in there or exposed wires. I mean, you could just use a J-clip. So what I ended up doing with the auxiliary power audio cable is, when I had it all curled up here, I mounted the isolator box right about here so it was out of the way. Then there's the silver metal bracket here underneath. What I did was I taped the cord up to there, brought it along the back side here, and up into my incredibly messy audio box. Now, underneath all of my junk is the little carpet mat. There's a notch in the carpet mat. You just use a flathead screwdriver, pop it out, and there's a big hole in there with some bolts. I lifted my center console out and brought the cord up through there and brought it out the corner. Can't really see down there, but I brought it out the corner. That way, I just change the audio plug whenever I'm listening to the nav or my music, or I am using my iPod. I don't have a problem switching the cord when I need to. So that's the way I did it. Now you can see I've already cut one off. I'm going to do the second one here. What you do is you take your side cutters, flat side down, line it up, and do an initial cut as far on an angle as possible. Don't go too deep, otherwise you'll just end up raising up. And now you can go deep. There we go. And what you should be left with, if you don't mangle the crap out of it, is the top of your little clip. And we'll see, line everything up. And that is looking pretty snazzy and flush, even though it's not properly clipped down. I'm avoiding clipping it down until the last possible moment, just so then if there's any final fitment or issues or anything like that, then I can come back and do it. But considering how far that's dropped just taking those clips out, I'd say it's fair to say that it's that simple to make this look flush. And we'll go back, taking this out. And make sure before you put everything together, before you put everything back to the way it was, you make sure everything's connected, everything's secured, everything's fastened. That way you don't get any rattles or rolls. Any of your loose cords like this. But if you hit a pothole, you're going to hear that. And you don't really want to be dealing with that while you're driving down the road, because then you're going to think something else is breaking. So go back, finish everything up, wrap everything up, make everything look as neat as possible, so that way you've got the least amount of chance that something's going to rattle and come loose. Alright, so once you got your module box all connected, the dongle goes here to your fuzzy cable, up to the module box. Your trip cable plugs into the module box there, and the cord follows down to there. There's a green indicator light on here, but I don't know why. I'm I'm guessing it's just there to say that it's operational. If you want, you can mount the box like this and it'll shine through your speaker grate if you have no speaker. If you have a speaker, then it's not going to shine through. Speaker people should mount it probably here using the tape. You want some double-sided 3M tape. Don't need anything else. About an inch wide and some electrical tape. That's just for some final fastening. For non-speakered people, you've really got a lot of options, because if you wanted to, there's your actual dash beam right there. You can mount it right up against your heater vents if you wanted to. You could mount it in the speaker hole. You could mount it underneath the speaker hole. You could mount it on your crash bar. Wherever basically you want to mount it. I'm going to mount mine probably right here, just to be sure that I can get to it. I'm not going to run out of cable. And we're going to start with some 3M tape. Once it's mounted up, we'll let you guys see. Everything's fastened up as much as possible. This usually plugs into the back of your blue screen, your IDD. But because it's not plugged into there anymore, it can just wiggle around loose. Use some tape, tie it up, make sure it doesn't rattle. You'll have these two extra wires, a blue and a green. They're not used for anything. They're for a remote control feature that we don't have on ours. Tie up your audio out cable and your GPS cable. I tie them up on this side because this is where where they plug in onto the back of the Navi. These wires aren't so bad because they go straight into the glove box. Once they're connected, they're pretty stiff. They're not going to make too much noise. And your last cable, your power cable for your Navi, that's pretty straightforward too. It's going to plug in. It's branched off of the box. It's going to be fine. Once you've got everything taped up, line it all up, make sure everything's connected, and then you can seat your Navi in it. So once you've got everything hooked up and your nav's installed, you can go ahead and push your bezel down. It sits pretty low, so that's what you're aiming for. The only thing is I still have some fitment issues with the bottom here, even though I cut extra bit off. So I'm going to have to go back and see if there's something else I can do, or maybe Arvin, if you're watching this, you can take a look and maybe you've got some suggestions on how I can get it completely flush. So now that it's installed, it's going to boot up. Got some wicked music there. Now this is the problem I ended up with, is where I drilled the hole. Got my double-sided tape there. When it's mounted, I can't close my glove box. So I'm going to have to drill lower and just put this over top of that hole, because I screwed up. So don't make my mistake. Drill as far down as possible. You've got lots of cord. Once you have everything hooked up, wired up, and all that jazz, this is why there's two types of bezels. One is the type A bezel that requires you modify your original bezel by cutting along here and fitting it in. The type 2 bezel, which is seen here, is for those who are more willing to cut some tabs off than to actually try to Dremel their bezels. So in order to get this to sit flush, we have to cut these tabs off flush. And we do that with our trusty side cutters, or Dremel tool if you happen to have. Now if I recommend, if you have a Dremel tool, that you tape up the back end of the deck so you don't fill it with small pieces of plastic, possibly causing an electrical fire.